Welcome to the Counting and Clapping tutorial series created by the junior high band teachers of the Gilbert Unified School District in Gilbert, Arizona. Counting and Clapping tutorial number 3, Whole, Half, and Quarter Rests. At the end of this tutorial, you should understand how to count and clap whole, half, and quarter rests, and how to count and clap a mixture of notes and rests of the whole, half, and quarter types in varying rhythm patterns. To be successful, you need to already understand the concepts taught in these earlier tutorials: all rhythm tree tutorials, basic time signatures and beats, counting and clapping part 1, conventions, and counting and clapping part 2, whole, half, and quarter notes. Let's start with a review of how to count and not clap whole, half, and quarter rests. Always check the top number of the time signature for the required number of beats per bar. In this example, the top number is a 4, so all measures must have 4 beats. Write the counting directly under the rests. Start every full bar with a number 1 and number all beats consecutively. Our first measure has a whole rest worth 4 counts, so we put all 4 numbers underneath this rest. 1, 2, 3, 4. Our next measure has 2 half rests worth 2 counts each, so the first half rest gets the numbers 1, 2, and the second half rest gets the numbers 3, 4. Our last measure has 4 quarter rests. Each one gets its own number. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rests don't get claps. Pulse the numbers with your hands apart while you count out loud. Here is a video showing the correct way to count and not clap all of these rests in this example.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Now let's take a look at some examples of mixing notes and rests of the whole, half, and quarter note types. In example number 1, we start with 4 quarter notes. Each note gets its own count and its own clap. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the next measure, we have 4 quarter rests. Each rest gets its own count, but no claps. Our hands stay apart as we pulse the numbers and count out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the third measure, we have 2 half notes. So we clap at the beginning of the note and we say 1, and we keep our hands together and count 2. On the next half note, we start with a counting of 3 and a clap, keep our hands together and say 4. In the next measure, we mix a half note followed by a half rest. So we start out the same as we did in measure 3 by clapping and counting on count 1, keeping our hands together and saying 2. And we end the measure with 2 counts, 3, 4, but no claps. Our hands are apart. Here's a video showing the correct way to count and clap example number 1.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Let's take a look at a second example. Here we mix and match quarter notes, half rests, quarter rests, and a whole note, all within 4 measures. We start with 2 quarter notes, so both notes get their own clap and their own count. 1, 2. The next note is a half note, so we clap on count 3, keep our hands together and say 4. In the next measure, it's the same as the first, except we replace the half note with a half rest. So we start out with our 2 quarter notes, 1, 2, and they both get a clap, but we end with a half rest, so we count 3, 4, but we don't clap. Keep our hands apart. The next measure is our simple whole note, so we clap at the beginning of the note, keep our hands together, and continue to count out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4. The last measure starts with 2 rests, 2 quarter rests. Each one gets its own count, but no clap, hands apart. 1, 2. And then we end with a half note, so we clap on count 3, keep our hands together, and count 4. Here's a video showing the correct way to count and clap, example number 2.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Now let's take a look at a third example. Example number 3 starts with a whole rest. So we're going to give all 4 numbers under the whole rest. We'll count them out loud, but we don't clap. Keep our hands apart as we pulse the numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4. The next measure mixes and matches quarter notes and quarter rests. We start with a quarter note, so we get a clap and a count on count 1. Count 2 is silent, so we say 2, but we don't clap. We have our hands apart. Count 3 is a note, so we clap count 3 as we say it. And count 4 is a quarter rest, so we say 4, but we don't clap it. 1, 2, 3, 4. The next measure is also quarter notes and a quarter rest, just in a slightly different order. So the first 2 notes, 1, 2, both get claps. Count 3 is a quarter rest, so our hands are apart when we say count 3, and we say count 4 out loud when we clap it. 1, 2, 3, 4. The last measure starts with a half note, so we clap on count 1, keep our hands together, and continue to say count 2. 1, 2. Then we end with a quarter rest, so we say 3 with our hands apart, and we clap on count 4 for the quarter note. 3, 4. Here's a video showing the correct way to count and clap, example number 3.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Let's take a look at the second to last example. Example number 4 starts with 2 quarter notes, so they both get a count and a clap. 1, 2. That measure ends with 2 quarter rests, so we still get the counts 3, 4, but no claps. 3, 4. The next measure is actually the same as the first measure. We've just put the 2 quarter rests together into 1 half rest worth 2 counts. So we have our 1, 2 clapped notes and 3, 4 rests hands apart. In measure 3, we have a quarter note, so we clap on count 1, a quarter rest, so our hands are apart when we say count 2, a quarter note, so we clap on count 3, and hands apart when we say 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The last measure flip-flops the third measure. We start with the quarter rest, so we say 1 but don't clap. Then we do clap and count on count 2. We have our hands apart when we count 3, and we clap again on count 4 for the last quarter note. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's a video showing the correct way to count and clap, example number 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And now for our final example. In example 5, we try to get a little bit tricky by where we put our rests. Measure 1 starts with a quarter rest, so we don't clap, but we do count 1 out loud with our hands apart. Then counts 2 and 3 are both quarter notes, so they get a clap and a count, and the measure ends with a quarter rest on count 4 with our hands apart. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the next measure, the 2 rests are in the middle and the 2 quarter notes are on the outside, so we clap on count 1 while we count it. Counts 2 and 3, we say with our hands apart, and then count 4, we clap again because it's a note. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the next measure, we start with a quarter rest, so we say 1 with our hands apart. Then our half note worth 2 counts gets a clap on count 2, but we keep our hands together when we count 3 to show that it's a longer note. Then that measure ends with a quarter rest, hands apart, count 4. The last measure starts with a half rest, so it's 2 counts of silence. We say out loud 1, 2, but we don't clap. 1, 2. Then we have a quarter note on count 3, so we clap, and we end with a quarter rest on count 4, so our hands are apart. 3, 4. Here's a video showing the correct way to count and clap our last example, number 5.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
This tutorial explained how to clap and count rhythms that use notes and rests of whole, half, and quarter values. It provided examples of rhythm patterns containing a mixture of notes and rests in those values. The next tutorial in this series introduces the tie and dotted quarter note to various rhythm patterns.